previews, starting to see a bunch of the final rares and mythics. So it'll be interesting to see where the rest of this week goes. But for now, let's just hop right in and take a look, because I think there's going to be quite a bit to talk about as usual. And man, this set's looking really, really good. Seriously, this is looking like one of the better sets we've had in a while. So let's go look at some new cards. As always, I want to remind everybody, these are the first chance I'm looking at these just like you. So we're just speculating, thinking of the first things that comes to our brain, and then just sharing those ideas. Don't go making any decisions on this, other than the fact that I will genuinely say I think this is going to be the best set we've had in quite a while, and this will probably be one of the first booster boxes I've gone out of my way to probably save multiples of in a good minute, probably since Time Spiral Remastered. So anyway, with that aside, this first card here is pretty wild. This is one, it is called... Well, we actually don't have a name for it, actually. I'm just looking at that now, realizing we don't know what this is called. So that's pretty interesting. But it is a 6 mana, 7/6, has trample. Whenever a land enters the battlefield, create a tapped Power Stone token. That seems really, really good. But it is 6 mana for a 7/6. Maybe in some reanimator type situation, I want this, but until I guess I figure out what we're doing with Power Stones in a green-red deck, I'm not sure if we're going to be there just yet on this card. Right, next up we have Teething Wormlet. That is a wild name. It's a 1 green, 1/1 worm. Teething Wormlet has Death Touch as long as you control 3 or more artifacts. Going to be easy to do in this set. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. If this is the first time this ability resolved this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Teething Wormlet. Okay, this card actually is pretty solid. The fact that you get to gain life every time an artifact comes into play. It doesn't even say Power Stone, so your Power Stones plus all this other stuff can gain you life. And each turn, as long as you make one, it will gain you a life. The other thing it says, each turn. It's not on your turn. So if you find a way to put one into play on your turn and on their turn, then you could possibly be gaining a counter each way. So yeah, this is actually probably going to be pretty playable. I'm going to be trying to find a use where this belongs, actually. Okay, we got Rootwire Amalgam. It's a 5 colorless 5/5 golem artifact creature. It has prototype where you can pay it for 2 to get a 2/3, or you can pay 5, sacrifice Rootwire Amalgam, and create an XX colorless golem artifact creature token where X is 3 times Rootwire Amalgam's power. It gains haste until end of turn. Activate as a sorcery. Wow. So you could play it as a 2/3. Later on, turn that 2/3 into, or actually get a 6/6, I guess, because it's 3 times. And you could attack with that. Or if you just manage to play this for 5, you get a 5/5, and then somewhere down the line, you make a 15/15. Yeah, because this is 3 times its power. This card is weird. All of these cards, actually, of this type seem playable, but we're also smart enough to know they can't all be playable. So something's going to be the worst version of them. But yeah, this is actually still kind of neat. I sort of like it. I just read this one. This one's kind of an interesting one. Girdling and Neutering. 2 colorless and a black for a 1/3 Phyrexian Horror. Flying, whenever you draw a card, whenever you draw your second card each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on it. When it dies, return another target creature with mana value less than or equal to Girdling and Neutering's power from your graveyard to the battlefield. This seems actually pretty useful, and we've seen the draw a second card thing already on a couple of cards in Standard, and I believe there's 2 or 3 in this set. So if you build a deck around that, this is actually a pretty solid card, because it's going to be, realistically, probably finishes like a 3 power or 4 power when it dies, and you get to return something. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on here. I don't think it's great, but if there's a deck that wants it, it is going to fit very well into that. Is that the best overall card based on power? Not really, and that's probably going to end up being a shortcoming in the end. Misery Shadow. 2 for a 2/2. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. Pay 1, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. This card's really good. So it's a 2 mana 2/2 straight up. You can pay 1 colorless, so 1 of any type, to give it a +1/+1. And then if a creature would die, you exile it. So another way to deal with underdogs and such, which is super nice. Yeah, this is good in almost any type of aggressive deck that even splashes black. This is only 1 black in the casting cost even. So yeah, yeah, that's all I got is yeah, this card's good. There's not a lot to say about it. Yeah, you're going to see people playing this for sure. All right, Cityscape Leveler, 8 mana, 8/8, Legendary Construct, Trample. When you cast this spell and whenever it attacks, destroy up to one target non-land permanent. Its controller creates a tapped Power Stone token. Wow. Wow. Okay. So if you do have a deck that makes use of Power Stones and all the colorless mana, actually, well, Power Stones, that wouldn't really work. Okay. So that'd be, well, what do we, if you have a way to trick this into play, you get to start destroying just stuff. It's non-land, so you can destroy whatever you want. And it's when it enters the battlefield. Oh, no, so when you cast it. So you can't actually get it out of the graveyard. So you have to actually cast it to get the trigger. And then whenever you attack with it. Yeah, this is like, this is one of those ones that if you find the way to trick it into play, whether that via ramp or play it out of graveyard, pretty powerful card. But 8 is a really big number. I don't know. This is gonna, if it goes in anything, it's gonna be in a couple of fringe decks. Probably not something you're gonna see a whole lot on the ladder, I wouldn't imagine. Blade Coral Serpent. It's a X and 6 artifact creature serpent, 5/4. When it enters the battlefield, for each 2 blue you spent on it, you draw a card. Whenever for each 2 black you spent on it, your opponent discards a card. And for each 2 red you spent on it, it gets +1/+0 and trample until end of turn. Yeah, this is just solid. You know, you pay 6. You're probably going to spend some combination of 2 blue or 2 black, or 2 of 2 of each of those colors at least. It does go into decks that aren't necessarily all 3 colors. It works if you're just playing 2 of those colors. And X lets you just do a ton later in the game, even. Just draw a bunch of cards on top of getting a solid 5/4 creature. Yeah, I think this is going to see some play, honestly. Like, this is a very solid card. Not outstanding, but solid. As a 1 or a 2 of in some of the decks, I think this could do some really big things. All right, Mural, Shield of Argive. 3 colorless and a white for a 3/4 mythic. We're looking at a lot of mythics today. Legendary creature, human soldier. During your turn, your opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities of artifacts, creatures, or enchantments. So that's going to turn your opponent off from being able to counter your stuff if this slips through. So that's actually big. And then whenever Mural, Shield of Argive attacks, you create X/1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature tokens, where X is the number of soldiers you control. Wow. Wow. This card's legit. So 4 mana, 3/4, not great, right? But it keeps your opponent from basically doing anything on your turn, which is super awesome. I guess technically, well, no, because yeah, even abilities of artifacts, creatures, and enchantments. So yeah, it just turns off things that they could do on your turn. But then this does have to attack, so it has to put itself at risk. But when it does, you get 1/1s for all the number of things, soldiers you have that are already in play. And we have a few cards already that we play that are actual soldiers. So yeah, this card's pretty good. Pretty damn good. And it's a human and a soldier, so it's going to fit in soldier decks and human decks. Yeah, not a lot to complain about here. This is just a solid all-around card. All right, this is Exaggeration. 5 red. So this is 7. So I hope this does something really good. But it says each player reveals a number of cards from the top of their library equal to the number of non-land permanents they control. Put all the permanent cards they revealed in this way on the battlefield. Put the rest in their graveyards. Oh my goodness. So for the number of non-lands everybody controls, they take that many from the top of their library. Then for all permanents they draw, they go into play. And that includes land, because the land is a permanent. Wow, this card is something else, y'all. Feels like strictly a commander type situation, though. At least something that helps the token decks or combo-y creature decks or whatever. I don't think we're going to see this in standard or anything else in 60 card, but I do like the card's ability. It's kind of fun, but I don't think it's on the competitive slant, unfortunately. All right, Autonomous Assembler, 5 mana, 4/5. Looks like it has Prototype 2 for make it a 2/2. It has Vigilance. You can pay 1 and tap it to put a +1/+1 counter on target assembly worker you control. This card itself is an assembly worker. Not bad. It could just grow a assembly worker each turn. 2/2 for 2. Yeah, it's all right. I don't think it's great, but it's solid. Nothing to really complain about, but nothing to write home about. All right, this one's Fateful Cooperation. 3 colorless and a black. Rare sorcery. Target An artifact or creature you control. Draw cards equal to the number of its mana value. Opponent gains control of that permanent. Ooh. So you get to draw cards, but then your opponent gets the thing. That's interesting. I don't know. This is a very quirky card. Very quirky card. I mean, I guess if I already stole something from my opponent, giving it back's not a big deal, and then I get the benefit of the cards, but this feels a little too convoluted, too gamey, whatever, for me to really want to play. It's an interesting card, I will say that, but even as a sorcery, maybe as an instance, you could get some kind of weird combat trick where maybe you block with a thing and then you draw the cards and you give it back, like, you know, something like that. But yeah, with that not being the case, I think I would skip on this one. All right, that's a short one today. Looks like there weren't that many rares and mythics today that we got previewed, so we got to cover all of those. But yeah, these were actually kind of interesting. I'm sort of feeling this set a lot. I think there's going to be stuff for every deck, for every format. Like, this is something I didn't really expect going into this. I figured a lot of this power level of stuff would have been in Dominaria United, but here it is in Brothers War. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the last few cards over the next 2 or 3 days and really seeing where we end up, because so far it's looking really interesting. But yeah, that's all I have for you for now. We'll see you next time. Catch you in the next one.